which is the best state for digital nomads to start an LLC?
The best state to form an LLC for a digital nomad, let's briefly define digital nomad. Digital nomad is a person who lives outside of their home country and travels relatively a lot. There's a scale of digital nomad, right? There's the digital nomad that lives in hotels and Airbnbs 2 weeks at a time, next place, and then there's the slow mad. I consider myself more of a slow mad. I have a couple of home bases, and I'm in one place for a couple of months, another place for a couple of months. But regardless, they're both on the scale of digital nomad. The best state to register as a digital nomad, so that presumes you're not living in a particular state in the U.S. Wyoming is our go-to for that. Generally speaking, Wyoming is our go-to. A lot, like I said, for cost and simplicity reasons, some people go with New Mexico. But Wyoming, New Mexico, and South Dakota is probably the top three that I would recommend on that. Of course, I mentioned earlier, if you are raising money or you have big credit lines or investors or something like that, you would probably want to do Delaware. But for the vast majority of nomads, Wyoming fills that need quite well. Now, let me delineate between digital nomads that are Americans and digital nomads that are non-Americans. So digital nomads that are Americans but living outside of the U.S., it doesn't make much of a difference which state. So Wyoming is pretty typical there. New Mexico also pretty typical. If you are a non-U.S. person, Wyoming is usually the easy go-to option there. So it doesn't make much of a difference in that scenario. There could be some other, I don't want to go into it on this because it's a bit out of context for what we're talking about. But for Americans, there could be a bit of additional structuring necessary, maybe with a holding company for tax optimization. For non-Americans, it's pretty straightforward. It's going to be passed through to them. If they don't have Nexus or ECI in the U.S. that we discussed previously, then the taxation or the income, it passes through to them personally, and taxation is going to be based on their own personal situation. So for the vast majority of non-U.S. people, their taxation will be based on where they have tax residency, if any. Maybe they don't have tax residency anywhere. In that case, then they don't have a tax obligation. For Americans, they would still have a tax obligation, tax filing obligation. I don't want to get into too much detail on the tax planning, but they do have some tax loopholes to take advantage of. But they are still a tax resident in the U.S. regardless.
If you're looking to form an LLC, especially if you aren't currently living in the U.S., we recommend working with Business Anywhere to create your LLC. If you use our link in the description below and enter the code BEGIN15 at checkout, you'll save 15%, excluding the state fees. If you want to see the step-by-step process of creating an LLC with Business Anywhere, watch this video right here, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye-bye.